And a welcome here to a very special edition of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Of course, we are inside of the Heritage Hill studios. You'll find Heritage Hill Brew House out in Pompey in the rolling hills of central and upstate New York. And of course, that's on Sweet Road. And you'll find Heritage Hill North by going to 628 South Main Street in North Syracuse at Sweetheart Corners. I am picture in picture in the Heritage Hill studios with Josh Lambo. I met Josh back a few years ago, and there's something I will never forget, and I'm going to say it in a second here, but I met him in Jacksonville Jaguars history, and obviously my content with the Jaguars on site, on location for the better part of the last 13 years plus is what we call On the Prowl. So we'll be doing that today, but going beyond his time with Jacksonville. I remember going to the locker of Josh Lambo, and when you go into the locker room of an NFL team or really any team, you don't know. I mean, some guys are doing the interviews in towels. Some guys are fully decked out, ready to go. This man looked like he was going to some type of Fashion Week event every time you went over to the locker. And I'll never forget this, and I don't know if he remembers this, but I was like, I don't think anybody wears a hat better than Josh Lambo. So with that being said, let's bring him into the show. Josh, how are we doing today?
I'm well. I'm well. Thank you for the lovely introduction. I started wearing fedoras to games as a absolutely pun intended, a tip of the cap to my grandfather. He never left the house without a dapper looking cap of some sort, and that's just my way of kind of keeping his memory alive.
And I want to go right to that, like you said, wearing a fedora, and you started doing it, pun intended, as a tip of the cap to your grandfather. Just what's your grandfather, his legacy, just his impact on your life, and what he's meant to you, and just that keeping that memory alive.
Yeah, so he was born in a town called Florina in 1926, which when he was born there was in Macedonia. So my family considers ourselves Macedonian, though Florina is now in Greece. He was an orphan immigrant, and he had a rough go of it, and still somehow was able to find the American dream and live the heck out of it, and had a beautiful family. Um, he was my idol. He was the man. He passed away unfortunately when I was only 15, and I feel like I missed out a lot of conversations with him, and a lot of life lessons, but. I try to carry on his legacy. My family's original last name when he came over from Macedonia was Haji Lambros, and they shortened it to America. His family when he came to the States, and when he was on his deathbed, I was actually in Argentina playing soccer, so I was only able to talk to him on the phone. But I told him, "Dedo, I love you. I miss you." Um, and I told him that he made our family's last name, but that I was going to make the world know it. And that's been my mission, and I think I've done a pretty good job of that so far, and it's only going to get better from here.
Yeah, and I can appreciate so many things that you just spoke about. My grandfather's, and I'm sorry, for the passing of your grandfather at 15. Both of mine passed away when I was 6, same year, 1992. And when people ask me who raised me to this day, 30 plus years later, I still give them credit and I think about them daily. And to even bring that home even more, right off camera here, I have the Navy hat of my grandfather on my mom's side, Tommy Cavino. And this actually has his name inside of it. It's from World War II in his service to America. And my grandfather on my dad's side, Ralph Tortora Jr., he has there's a few things that I could utilize, but this is when he retired from Miller and he drove a forklift. Now he served in the U.S. Army in World War II as well, and my dad has all of the things that have come from that. But this means the most to me. The Navy hat from my one grandfather and this from my other grandfather. This was from his cake when he retired officially from Miller and retired from just working pretty much his whole life. I'll never forget being in the dining room, and he turned and looked at me in his house. He took this out of his cake. It had frosting all over it. He handed it to me, and he was like, lick the frosting off the wheels were there, and he was like, keep it. So these are always right off screen. So starting
That's
this
all.
conversation off about grandfathers, Josh, is right up my alley, and I would love to share what it means to you that you told him, you made this name what it is, and I'm going to make the world know it. Just what keeping that promise to your grandfather has meant to you.
Um, it's it's a strange thought to have because as I maybe look back at my sporting career, it might sound a little ridiculous, but I kind of look at it as a failure. I never represented the United States at a full World Cup, only in the U17s and the U20s. I never played in the Olympics. Second team All Pro. So there's a little asterisk next to the All Pro next to my name. Never was a Pro Bowler, and so I feel like there's a lot more that I could have done potentially. But being my brother, I'm the youngest of three boys, and the middle brother told me when I got into the NFL, he said, "Josh, I don't care if you make an All Pro, win a Super Bowl, anything. He said, I want you to win the Walter Payton Man of the Year." And I didn't win the entire thing like my good friend Calais Campbell did, but for 1 year I was the Jaguars nominee, and I hope and I believe that if my dad was watching, or however that whole afterlife thing works, I hope that he was proud of the work that I did in Jacksonville, and I'm hoping the good that is synonymous with the Lambo name.
We look at this Lambo name, and I can say this to you, not knowing until we had this conversation today about your grandfather. I can tell you that you've worn the name well, because I have had over 5,000 people on the show here on Wake Up Call. I've been around the Jaguars, like I said, for over a decade, and the person that I specifically reached out to and to connect with was you. And I done it a few times, saying like, I want to have Josh back on the show. And to me, special teams, it doesn't matter. Special teams, offense, defense, good people are good people. People that leave a mark on you leave a mark. So I can say this, and I'm not saying it because you're on screen, but of all of the NFL players that I've spoken to, regardless of position, regardless of did they win this, did they win that, I'm not looking at any of that. When I look back on Jaguars history, and I've been a Jaguars fan through and through since 1995, I can tell you without doubt you are one of my favorite Jaguars, and I was going to continue to reach out to you until you reach back. So, Josh, you are wearing the name well.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that. That's very kind to say. Thank you.
And I want to go to those Jacksonville days, because that's how I met you. And when we're in the locker room, it's kind of just wide open, and you have the opportunity to speak with who you want to speak with. And I made it a point to come over and talk with you. You had a lot of good moments, really amazing moments. And to hear you talk about your soccer career and your football career and say, I did this, but I didn't do exactly that, I don't see it the way that you see it. I see it as you're one of the greatest Jaguar kickers to go down in history. You're one of the people I trusted at the end of the game when I'm sitting up there in the press box going, Lord Jesus, please. But I mean, Josh, you're on a very short list of Jaguars kickers that they're like, this is going to be from 60, this is going to be from 51, whatever it may be. That you're on a list of names that is very tiny, probably on my one hand, in Jacksonville Jaguars history that started back in 1995. What moments stick out to you from your time in Jacksonville?
Um, it was I just signed on with the team, so it's 2017. I signed on, we played away at Indianapolis week 7. I think we shut them out. That was like 20-0. That was awesome. I was with the Chargers, so I wasn't really used to winning. And so that was kind of nice to like win a road game and be happy on the flight home. Then we had a bye week, and then we played the Bengals at home. And so this would have been week 9 of the 2017 season. We're driving towards halftime, and I have this routine. I kick into the net on the sidelines on first and third downs because I kick on first down. Okay, I have plenty of time. If I don't hit the ball perfectly into the net, I have the time to breathe. Okay, what went wrong? What do I need to fix? I take my time, and then right when third down goes, I hit into the net again. And then I walk up to the special teams coordinator, and just wait for further instructions. Am I out on the field, or am I going back to the kicking net? And we had a good ways to get a first down. So I'm like, I don't know if we're going to pick up all these yards, so I need to be prepared. And so I'm standing next to Joe D. Camillus, and then Doug Marone walks up right next to me. And I'm pretty sure Bortles dumped it over the middle to Yeldon. It was like a 7-yard gain, but it was a 56-yard field goal. And my career long at that point was 54 yards, which was my rookie year, which was 2015. 2016, I went over from beyond 50. I missed all three attempts with the Chargers. And then 2017, the Jags ended up cutting Jason Myers because he was missing a lot of his 50 plussers so far. And he's an amazing kicker. He's done so well for himself in Seattle afterwards. And so like there was a lot riding on this for me. It's like, am I just a soccer player that got lucky? Like, do I belong to be here? Or do I deserve to be here? Do I belong in this league? And so it's a 56-yard field goal. Marone just looks at me and says, "Can you make it?" "Yes, sir." "Then go F and make it." And so I go out there. Yeah, I just started like practicing mindfulness, which I believe is what allowed me to become, that kicker in Jacksonville that I was. And I didn't let the moment get the best of me. I stayed in my process. I stayed in the moment. My mind was where my feet were, and I smoked it, 56 yards. I didn't know what to do. I was so excited, and a lot of people like they inquired like, what was my little arm celebration thing that I did? Man, I blacked out after I made that kick. I'm like, what just happened? I just went full soccer mode. I went Didier Drogba mode. I just did this like, yes, yes, yes. Couldn't believe it. And then for whatever reason, Calais loved it. And then it kind of became a tag team celebration. And yeah, it was. Yeah, truthfully, like back in my days when I was younger and dumber and would go drinking and stuff, and I was in the club and that good song went on, it was just, and that was the feeling that I had. I'm like, oh my God, I just did something amazing. Like, what in the world? I belong here. And that was that was the coolest moment for me, probably followed by all of my kicks in the playoffs that year.
Yeah, and I love that, like you said, when they're like, why did you do that? You're like, I just blacked out. You have those moments where, and I've done that before too, like I've gone into something and come out of it and they're like, what were you thinking in that moment? And I was like, I blacked out. I trusted myself. I knew I was there. I have a strong belief in God. I have a strong faith. And I was like, I
Mhm.
believe in God. I believe in myself. I'm going to do this. You go out and you just kind of like, I mean, for you, and like you said, it became a thing. And you mentioned Calais Campbell a couple times. He is one of my favorite Jaguars of all time. He he's also in Calais, if you're watching this, I send my love and my appreciation. I know a few things about Calais Campbell. Number one, when I would go up to his locker, that man, you would not know that he's an all pro. You would not know that he was never larger than life. There were guys in the Jaguars locker room, and Josh knows who they are, and so do I, that were very much about themselves. And then here's Calais Campbell, and you walk up to him, and he's sitting in his locker in silence, and you go, Calais, do you have a minute? And he's like, yeah, of course. What do you got? What's going on? And I would talk to him, and then I remember one time I got off a flight, it's coming into Jacksonville, and I'm sitting back in like row 30. And I turn around and I catch this guy in row like 33, and it's Calais Campbell. Now he's a big guy, and I'm sitting here going like, I'm 5'8", and I don't like these seats. And here he is in row 33, and I just thought to myself, he's not on here wearing a suit, big old chain, screaming at flight attendants up in first class, saying, I need this and I need that. Do you know who I am? He's sitting back here with everybody else. He gets off that flight, and I don't think I've ever, I may have, I don't think I've ever told the story on the air. I got off the flight, and when you're in there in the locker room, you're not allowed to ask for interviews. You're working media, or not allowed to ask for autographs. And so I went over to him. I said, Calais, we've talked before. I respect the heck out of you. I can't ask you this when we're on the grounds of Jacksonville Jaguars territory. So can I have your autograph? And he signed the whatever I had with me, whatever piece of paper that I had. But I want you to speak a little bit more to the person of Calais Campbell, because that
But
story was meant for me to show how humble he is, how kind he was. This was at night. I'm sure he wanted to just go home. He talked to me. He signed the autograph for me. He's sitting in the back and coach with everybody else. Who is the man, Calais Campbell?
that's who he is. He's a good man, and he's somebody that I looked up to. One of my favorite Calais stories was, it was an off season. I don't remember what year it was, but it was somewhere around February, March, April. Nobody has to be in the facility, but we're both in there getting the workout in, and We're kind of next to the training room, the auxiliary room, and I'm just like, yo, class, man, I'm just not feeling it today, man. I just don't got it. I only got about 60%. And I was like looking for some validation or just whatever, just being dumb and needy. And Calais is like, that's okay, man. As long as you give 100% of that 60%, you're giving everything you got. So just make sure you do that. I was like, that's why you're the captain. Got it. Understood.
Yeah.
He was just like he knew how to view things in the right way. And he was, the ultimate professional. He was always in there working. Him and I didn't get to play as long with him, but Paul Posluszny was. I only got to share less than a season with him, but he was one of my favorite teammates, and we weren't even that close. Just getting to watch the two of those guys, that is, I think, why we got to. Again, I'm a soccer guy, so I call it the Super Bowl semifinal. Um, and but yeah, Calais, like you said, he always has time for people. He was never too big or too important for anybody. He made people around him feel welcome, feel loved, feel important.
Yeah.
And I think that's what a leader does is a leader brings the best out of people. And I can't speak for anybody else, but Calais made me want to be a better athlete, teammate, man, friend. Um, and so I'll always be a fan of Calais.
I love that. And I appreciate that. Josh Lambo here with us in this feature spotlight about his career and his life and everything that's coming forward from this. So many things to get into that are on my mind. One of them is something that a lot of people don't know about. And that's what an athlete knows, and it's what a media member knows to a certain extent, is the life inside of a locker room. You know, I talk about it all the time. When they say, how did this team have so much talent, but they didn't win this? Or how can this happen, but this didn't happen? I tell people, listen, if you take one guy off a team, one woman off a team, and you take that nameplate off, that can really affect the psyche of a locker room. It can affect it positively, it can affect it negatively. Being in that locker room of a team that almost made it to the Super Bowl, like I said, I've been a Jaguars fan since beginning, since 1995. That season broke my heart in Foxborough, and I know it broke a lot of hearts. And the life inside the locker room was seeing the different personalities, the different styles, the different fashions, like we talked about with you, but also seeing the different personalities and who people are. That year in Jacksonville, that almost was a trip to the Super Bowl, how would you describe that locker room?
Um, I would describe it as we were nose of the grindstone. Nobody was a superstar yet. I don't think Jalen was really Jalen yet. I don't think um, Leonard maybe didn't think as highly of himself as he did later. Maybe. I don't know. I'm not making any accusations. But um, nobody had made it yet. Nobody had had that taste of success. I don't know how many guys we had in that locker room that had ever played in the Super Bowl. I think Calais, I don't know if there are many more. Um, and then you get that little taste of success and you think that you're the reason why you had the success. And so you try to, look after number one. And I think the guys that go to the Pro Bowl, the guys that are in the NBA All-Star are the guys that are on the winning team. Like you can be a superstar on a bad team, and guess what? Nobody's going to know you.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way. If you want to be known, you have to play for the name on the front of your shirt, not the one on your back. Because if you play for the name on the front of your shirt, then people will know the name on the back, and they'll be, "Oh man, that player is so great." But it's because you sacrificed yourself, your want, your desire for the sake of the team. Because everyone's goal is to win a Super Bowl. That's why you play in the NFL, well, partly. Um, is to win a championship. Whatever you do, you always want to be the best. Whether it's in business or any facet of life, you want to win. That's just like it's inherent in our DNA as humans, I think. And but the best way to get, what is it? If you want to get somewhere quickly, go alone. If you want to get somewhere, how does it go? So, you know what I'm
Yeah.
talking about. If you get somewhere fast, go alone. If you want to get somewhere effectively go together. There's some quote along those lines. And I think after that year, everybody just wanted to get paid, and not everybody, but a couple guys. And um, ultimately, if you want to win, you need to lay down yourself, I think, unless you're, especially at a team where you have 11 guys on the field at a time, like you're less than 10% of anything that goes right, whether you make the interception or the sack or the play or whatever. Like there were 10 other guys that had to do their job too. So
Yeah.
take a seat a little bit, build up your teammates instead of yourself, and then watch how high you rise by building your teammates up. And I just don't think, I think we had that in 2017. And then after that, I think the record speaks for itself.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, going into to that to be so close. I mean, Jacksonville, since coming in to the league as an expansion team in 1995-96, has made it to the AFC Championship game 3 times and has never made it to the Super Bowl. When we look back on 2017-18, that season where you were at the door, 4 points away in Foxborough, 5 points away technically because you're down by 4. After that, like you said, we see a 5-11 season, a 6-10 season, a 1-15 season, a 3-14 season. Back-to-back years of the number 1 pick. Not great.
Not great.
When that locker room went through the, oh my gosh, nobody thought we can get here, now we're here. And then after that, like you said, the difference of playing for the name on the front of the jersey versus the name on the back. What was it like to be in those practices, in that locker room, in those film studies when the team was at the door and then some individualism prevented the team from getting back to the door?
I mean, I think the meetings were really focused, in the playoffs, in the 2017-2018 year. I remember like practicing in January before the title game, and I just remember thinking like, man, I'm one of 4 kickers that are still practicing. Like we are one of 4 teams that are still practicing and playing and grinding and doing the meetings and doing the workouts. And I felt this sense of privilege of like, man, what a cool opportunity. Um, and ultimately, I think that second half, and again, I played football. I'm not a football guy, so like any football critiques I have, please take with the largest grain of salt. But like just being an athlete and being a part of teams, I feel like in that AFC title game, we played the first half to win, and then we played the second half to not lose.
Yeah.
And one of my biggest pet peeves from any coach, I don't care what sport, is when you practice one thing, you practice one formation, one style of play, and then you come up against an opponent, and then all of a sudden you change what you do. Make them beat you. Like it's a common saying in the NFL, more games are lost than won. If you're going to lose a game, make them beat you. Don't lose the game. I think everyone felt like, again, I don't understand coaching. I don't even understand offense and defense. I just know if it's fourth down, if it's time to kick. Um, you can't do that. It's in soccer. You play a 4-4-2 all the time. Then you go up against this Messi and you want to go 5-3, whatever. It's like, why? Why are you changing? If you lose, you lose. That's a part of sports, but don't give it away. And then I think also too, I think we were underestimated. I think of that Pittsburgh Steelers game, like the week leading up to it, they were like Jacksonville, like we're already doing game film for the Patriots. But then we showed out that year, and then 2018 regular season rolls around, and people are like, okay, we actually need to take the Jags serious. And so I think that was kind of part of the demise too, was we just expected it to happen.
Yeah.
And then other clubs were determined to not let it happen. And that's a recipe for another high first round draft pick.
Yeah. But you mentioned the tale of the two halves, and I'm there's so many memories I have of being in Foxborough and driving to Gillette Stadium and pulling in. I remember having my briefcase over my shoulder, and I was walking and I saw my shadow on the sidewalk, and then I looked at the entrance to the stadium, and something inside of me went, this is different. Wherever else you've been, this is the belly of the beast. Like, this is the big bad wolf. These are the Patriots. This is Bill Belichick. This is Tom Brady. Not many people come out of here with a victory, and especially now in the postseason. It just felt different. And I remember Barry Church, and Barry, to me, like, playing that safety role, being out there. This man had been around. He's an old head in the NFL. And when he laid that hit on Rob Gronkowski, he didn't do anything illegal. And I remember watching it like a million times over. He came from the right side of the field, Gronk's on the left side of the field, and he goes, he leaps, he puts his helmet to here, and Gronk went like this before he came in, and he hits him shoulder first, comes up. And I remember after the game, I go, Barry, I said, you didn't do anything dirty. He goes, thank you. And I was like, he looked at me, he goes, how am I supposed to hit him? It's Gronk. You know, he's like, what do you want me to? I hit him as hard as I possibly could. And I just remember being like, if you look back on that game, Josh, Tom Brady, the greatest of all time quarterback, he did not defeat Jacksonville from one end zone to the next. His scoring opportunities came on a penalty that came from that hit on Gronk by Barry Church and a pass interference penalty on Jalen Ramsey down the stretch. Yeah. Tom Brady did not go the entire length of the field on Jacksonville's defense the entire game.
Yeah, I mean, our defense was nasty that year. Like, it was so fun to watch. It was so fun to be, like I said, I came from a losing team with the Chargers. These those couple of years we didn't do very well. And then, like, being in games where, like, you can win and you do win. And it's it was so much fun, like, knowing that we had the best defense in the league that year. I mean, prove me wrong. Like, at Saxonville, that was where we were at, and I can't help but think that we would have just obliterated the very, very lovely Nick Foles and the Philadelphia Eagles in that next game if we would have had an opportunity to play in it. But we didn't, and that's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. And I hope that everybody learned a lesson from that. And I believe that failure is only failure if you allow it to be. If you stop moving, if you quit, if you give up on it, if you don't pivot. And yeah, it's always fun to talk about the what ifs. And I remember that game finally hitting a 54-yard field goal like in Foxborough in the AFC Championship. Like, what? When my brother was in the stands, I had friends and family in the stands. But the coolest thing for me for that game, so yeah, I was a soccer guy. I was with the U.S. National team in the youth levels, and I got to know a lot of people throughout the ranks of all of U.S. soccer. I became really good homies with the head equipment guy, a guy named Jesse Bignami, and another friend group for soccer. They're all in California. It's three brothers, and they were all friends with Jesse as well. And they kind of had a group, like a brother group, that, hey, like, should we go to Foxborough? Should we go watch Lambo? And then they reach out to Jesse, our mutual friend, and Jesse's like, no, I mean, I can't go, but I can help you guys out. And so what he did is Jesse was still with the national team at the time, and he printed up 3 U.S. national team goalkeeper jerseys with the number 4 with Lambo on the back. He gave them all goalie gloves, and they showed up to Foxborough in those jerseys, in those gloves. They sent me a picture of the 3 of them wearing those jerseys to me before the game. And I'm remembering, I'm getting emotional about it. That was one of the most thoughtful, kind things that has ever happened to me to feel support. And I just had all the confidence in the world going into that game. I had my people there. I had people rooting for me, and I believed in my process.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I wish we could have played one more game that year.
Yeah, and I think, and I love that. I love that you had that and you had that support, and that's why, I mean, for me, that's why I wanted to do this, because I wanted to tell you more than, I mean, I always try to do things differently. I've always been that way. Go up to a locker and, I wouldn't just come up and ask you questions and shove a mic in your face. I would say, hey, Josh, do you have a minute? give you the opportunity to say, hey man, I'm going to get changed. Hey man, I got to do this, whatever, and give you the courtesy. And then at the end, I don't know if you remember this, but every time I do an interview, I put my hand out and I shake your hand. I don't care if there's 500 people there. It's my way of saying I appreciate your time. I respect you. I wanted to have you here today because as a Jaguars fan, as somebody who defends them every day, I'm just proud that you are a Jaguar. I'm proud that you were the kicker that year. I'm proud that you were the kicker all the other years that you were in Jacksonville. And I wanted you to know beyond a doubt that there are people that really genuinely appreciate you. And when Doug was gone and Urban came in, Urban Meyer, and you were no longer our kicker, Josh, I got pissed. So I was pissed off. I said, "Why?" I said, "This is my kicker." So to me, there's a, like I said, maybe four that I can put on one hand of Jacksonville history that I'm like, these are the guys, this guy in this era, this guy with this. And to me, Josh, like you were such a big part of why I love that team. And I wanted you to know that. And it's only me. I'm one broadcaster in a sea of whatever the media world. But I wanted you to know that, yeah, there was people that were wearing the gloves and putting the Lambo shirts, the jerseys on and showing you that soccer love at the game in Foxborough. But there's also people like myself that are sitting here saying, I wish I had 5 more minutes and one more game and one more field goal attempt with Josh Lambo.
Well, that's very sweet and very kind of you to say. Yeah, truthfully, I wish I was still your kicker. Unfortunately, that's not the way that things worked out. And I'm, trying to make the most sense of the end of my career as I possibly can and use it as a positive and amidst all the negatives you could look at with the way that everything happened. And I hope Jaguars fans know that I love you. I appreciate you. I felt the love in Jacksonville. I loved going around town and just seeing people do this. It was always really, really cool. And um, I love the people in Jacksonville Jaguars. Those people are my family. There are several people that are still on staff there that I talk to frequently that I love. I genuinely do. I get off the phone with them and say, hey, I want to talk to you later. I love you. And I'm forever grateful for the fan base, for a lot of the staff. And sometimes a little bit of dust gets through the vent into a clean room. It screws everything up, and uh, then you got to kind of rebuild. And
Yeah.
I'll forever be a Jacksonville Jaguars fan. I know a particular action that I took might seem otherwise, but I hope that in the grand scheme of things, it will be known that I put my foot down for the good of the city and the club and the people that I care about.
Yeah, and to that note, and feel free, whatever you want to talk about or however you want to address it. But in that, from my seat, it was really strange. Urban Meyer comes in, and you're our kicker. You're the Jaguars kicker, and then the world kind of shifts, and then some things come out about what did he do, how was he toward you, and all these pieces. I think it's fair to allow people the opportunity to speak when we live in a world where so many people speak for you. I don't want to do that. So whatever you want to say about whatever happened, I wanted to give you the opportunity because I feel like the world all too often says, well, I'm not Josh Lambo, but I'm going to tell you what he thinks and I'm going to tell you how he feels. I'd love for you to share that with us because you're always going to be a Jaguar to me, and you always are one of those positive lights when I look back on Jacksonville and I look back on all these years and everything that is to come. So I want to give you the floor to speak whatever you want to speak instead of loading a question, which I'm sure you get enough of.
Yeah, well, thank you. And I can't speak a lot about it. The lawsuit is still ongoing, and so I don't feel appropriate talking about it too much. I've said what I had to say in the interview that I gave with Heather Crawford, right after it happened, and in the article with I forgot the gentleman from the Tampa Bay Times, his name, but um, I don't care if it's football or a restaurant or a Fortune 500 company, you don't get to be a bully. You just don't. You don't get to physically abuse people. You don't get to threaten their jobs. You don't get to intimidate them and get away with it. This isn't college. I'm not a kid. I'm not some young person that doesn't understand life. And there are times where you need to let water under the bridge, and there are times you need to put your foot down. And I put my foot down, and I'm proud of what I did. I'm proud of what I stood up for, and I hope that it will make change. I didn't do it for me um, to win some lawsuit. I did it so that nobody gets abused again at work. I don't care what you call it. I don't care if it's your passion. I don't care if you love it. It's a job.
Yeah.
And I played football. I'm not a football player. That's not how I identify. I never have. And that was my job. And I loved my job. And I loved the people that I got to work with. But just because it's a macho, manly like career, it doesn't mean that you get to physically abuse people. It doesn't mean you get to bully them. It doesn't mean you get to intimidate them. It doesn't mean you get to mentally bully them. And I let it slide there for a second, and then I had an opportunity to correct it, and I did. And I think the fact that he got fired immediately after my article came out speaks to the truth. And I hope that guy finds whatever peace he needs to find, because that person that I got to know seemed very troubled and tortured, and I genuinely hope that he finds some peace.
And I appreciate that here with Josh Lambo in the spotlight, and going from that to who you are today. Like you said, you didn't do it for you, you did it to help everybody. One of the things I love about your social media is that you're constantly spreading positive messages. And I think everything you just said speaks to the person that you are, of you're not just looking to win by yourself. You're looking to help other people, and you put up these inspirational things. You have, pictures of yourself, out living life away from the football field. You have football pictures, but you're putting out these messages as a way to uplift people in a time where, I mean, when you were growing up as a kid, when I was growing up as a kid, when there was mental health issues, when somebody was bullying you, when somebody was attacking you, we were told, suck it up. Unfortunately, we were told something very derogatory, which was don't be a girl. And we were constantly pushed to just suppress and suppress and suppress. And it led to a lot of problems. Now, in today's world, mental health is a focus, thank God, and it's important. You've taken it upon yourself to be a message throughout the weeks and throughout the years of helping people, and I genuinely love that about you, and I respect it. So why do it?
Um, well, thank you. I'm glad that that's how it is being perceived. Um, I'm not me without other people. I don't have, I don't, I don't have the drive that I have without, American soccer. I'm going to call him a legend. Certainly a Chicago soccer legend, Jonathan Spector. When I was 13 years old, he came to a soccer camp I was at and said he was playing for Manchester United, the biggest club in the world. The
Yeah.
guy that I like, my family would go to his high school games at St. Viator and watch him play high school soccer. And then he's playing at Manchester United and he's talking to my team and he said, the minute a team signs you is the minute a team looks to replace you. And little nuggets from Tim Howard that I'm lucky enough to call a friend. And the thing that really changed the course of my life and my football career, my third season when I was going into my third season with the Chargers, I got cut before opening day. So the Chargers moved from San Diego to Los Angeles, and our first team meeting as the Los Angeles Chargers that preseason, our guest speaker at the team meeting was Kobe Bryant. And he took time out of his day. I'm not sure he got paid, but like he was transitioning from being the athlete to being speaker and motivator and encourager, and he spoke to our team and he recommended a book. I read that book over the course of the preseason. I finished that book on the way from the hotel to the week 4 game in San Francisco. It's called The Mindful Athlete by George Mumford. And I got to stadium, everything clicked. I understood how to kick. I went to the special teams coordinator. I said, yo, I figured it out. I know how to kick. I'm not going to miss anymore.
Yeah.
And then they cut me 2 days later. And then, during the Doug Marrone reign of the Jaguars, I was the most accurate kicker in the National Football League, and you just can't argue that. Um, Justin Tucker didn't have the numbers I had. Harrison Bucker didn't. Nobody did. And I attribute that to I didn't learn how to kick a new style. I didn't become a better kicker. I didn't use a new technique. I utilized mindfulness and I was able to put all these tools in my tool belt to when adversity came, when those negative thought processes came, I knew how to handle them and I knew how to combat them and I knew how to flip them on their end and make it positive. And my life just got so much better. And being at the top of the mountain, being on the top of the food chain by yourself is just no fun. It's just, it's a beautiful view, but it goes away after 30 seconds and you're looking around, you're like, man, I wish I would have brought more people with me.
Yeah.
That is what I want to do now. I want to bring people with me. I want to show them here are the schematics. Here's the blueprints to get to the top of your mountain. So I'm pursuing, yeah, I'm doing keynote speaking now. I'm, online mental performance coach, all of the things that helped me become the Jaguars kicker I became, under Doug. I want to share it all. Because like I used to hide when my career was over and I retired from football. I'm like, gosh, I played professional recess for work for so long. Like, what do I do now? And I would hide from it. And then I realized there's a really, really amazing book called The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. And he talks about this idea of resistance. And when you hit this wall of resistance and you're meeting, you're going towards a goal, and then all of a sudden you hit this roadblock. Instead of being like, oh, it's a roadblock, yes, I got to go another direction, you can interpret that as that is exactly where you need to be. And now you just need to climb up and over the wall, and you're there. Don't give up. You're so close. You're this close. You're the width of a wall away from what you wanted. Don't stop. And so I was feeling these insecurities about not having real world professional experience, never having a real job. But then flipped on its head. It's like, I'm the only person in the world that has the viewpoint that I have. I'm the only person in the world that has the lens of life that I've been able to look through. And I think it's really valuable. And I want to help people. Hey, this is what worked for me. This is what didn't work for me. This was my thought process. This is how I got out of this. This is how I got into this, and maybe avoid it next time. I love helping people become the best versions of themselves because I feel like I am the best version I've ever been of me. And it has nothing to do with me. It's all the books that I read and the podcasts, and it's all of the effort put forth by other people. And I just feel like that's my calling is to be a cheerleader for everybody. I don't care if you play sports or not. You can perform at a higher level, and I want to get you to do it because when you perform at a higher level, you get paid more, you have less stress, your family time is better. It's just like when you get to that top of that mountain and you learn a new way of thinking and you can put a stop to all of your negative thought patterns and thought processes, man, life is pretty great if you know how to look at it. But a lot of us aren't trained to look at life more than maybe one way or two ways. And there's what, 8 or 9 billion people on the planet. So there's 8 or 9 billion different ways to go about life. And, um, once I started to understand that things aren't so black and white, my life became better. And I want to share those lessons that I learned because if you're only going to live this one life, like, yes, we live, yes, we die, but what do you do in between it? When you're born and when you're dead. And and if when we die, if that is the end all be all of everything, just if, why wouldn't you spend your time on earth doing good things? I just that's where I'm at. I want to think better. I want to love on people better. I want to communicate better. Um, and I want to help other people do the same because when you have a common goal, like the Jags did in that 2017, 2018 season, just watch how far you can go and how much success you can have.
Yeah, and I love that, and I can appreciate, and I could see that passion that you have for this, and I can hear that energy, feel that energy, and I think that that's huge. I think wanting to go out there and, like you said, to go through something and to go through the mental torture, the physical strife, whatever it may be, the emotional stress. People go through economical stress, spiritual strife. When you go through those things and you get to the other side, it's great to get to the other side and be like, oh my gosh, it's taking me 30 years to get here. It's taking me 3 months to get here. It's taking me 2 years to get here. But when you get there, it's amazing. But the only thing more amazing than getting to the other side of everything that tried to stop you is saying, like you said, I want to bring other people with me. I don't want to get on the mountain and go, oh my gosh, I finally overcame those mental walls that I put up for myself. When you create opportunities for other people to take down their mental walls. Now, when you're up there and you're doing this, you're doing it with people. You're doing it in community. You're not doing it alone. And I feel like so many people want to figure out their life. But when you figure things out, there's something to be said about helping somebody else figure out theirs. And something almost even more rewarding of saying, I thought the sun was going to burn me up and here I am sitting on it. But when you're sitting next to somebody going like, they're here and I help them. I help them get here. It's not a, oh my gosh, look at me, look at me. It's just something to, I don't know, to me, helping somebody else get through their pain, it's amazing to get through yours. But when you help somebody else get through theirs, it just does something to you, Josh.
Yeah, I mean, I firmly agree with that. And yeah, when you can, as anyone, if you can help somebody overcome a negative thought pattern about them, something that they've told themselves since they were young because it was something their parents told them. But guess what? It's not even the parents' fault because the parent didn't know any better either. So you need to give them space and give them grace. And when you just realize that we're all just people, like we want to look at mom and dad as superheroes, but like guess what? Mom and dad were babies at one point too, and they had parents and they had to grow up and they had hardships and they had to learn based off of what they had and who knows what they had.
Yeah.
And so you can't just go into any conversation with anybody assuming that they understand everything that you understand because they don't. They haven't lived your life. And I'm really fortunate to have seen, I think sports, at the end of the day, like sports can help distract people. It can help bring communities together. It can make people feel loved. You see somebody wearing a Jaguar shirt in a different state or country. Oh, hey, like what? Let's talk. Like that's a cool thing. But for me, playing sports is you just got to see life through a different, very specific lens. And you get to learn about leadership and communication and working with people that you don't necessarily super duper get along with and you wouldn't invite out to lunch. You learn how to structure your time. You learn how to encourage other people. You learn when to keep your mouth shut, when to speak up. And I've been in sports a long time. I've moved out of my house at age 14 to be with the U17 national team. I was a pro athlete for 11 years across two sports. I've seen and learned a lot about life inside of the white lines.
Yeah.
And I just believe that there are very, very few things that you can't learn about life inside those white lines. And um, even like looking back retroactively, looking back at my career, I'm still picking up new things and learning new things. And I just want to help other people get that viewpoint. I want to help them see life through that lens because it's so unique and it's so helpful for the long term. There's a reason why companies love hiring athletes. We're wired a certain way. And so I want to share, hey, what is it like to be an athlete? What is it like to be a part of a team? What is it like to hit a game-winning field goal? What's it like to miss a game-winning field goal against the Cleveland Browns and give them their one win in 2 years? That was me, right? On Christmas Eve, no less. And I just want to help people, and I can, and know I can help people think about things differently. Because if you can think about things differently, then you can really start to make change. Um, and so I'm really excited about this new career of mine. And I'm just excited for me, I'm continuing Kobe's legacy. I'm continuing Tim Howard's legacy. I'm continuing Jonathan Spector's legacy. Of all these amazing athletes that poured into my life, I want to be the encyclopedia for everything that I've learned for people that don't have the time, don't have the resources to read the books or listen to the podcasts or go to conferences.
Yeah.
I want to be that resource for people because I know how fortunate I am to have the time and the resources to be able to do those things. And I believe that I have that opportunity not just to benefit me. And I feel that weight and I feel that burden and I take it very seriously. Um, so when you're looking at your life through a foggy, scuffed up lens, it's hard. Life can be really, really hard. And if you're not trained by a coach about how to handle those things, it can be a real rough go of it.
Josh Lambo here with us, and we I would love to have you back if you'd like to come back because we got to talk about soccer. There's a lot of things we got to get into, but I want the final note to be a couple things. First and foremost, how people can get in touch with you if they would like you to speak at a specific event that they have or something they have going on, or they want to learn more about you. How should they reach out?
Check out me, check my socials out. So I think Josh Lambo 4 on Instagram, my business page on Facebook, and shoot me an email, josh@joshlambo.com. I'm about maybe a little under a week away from my new website getting launched, and there's a calendar, you can book whatever you need on there. And so yeah, I'm looking forward to working with anybody that wants to elevate their thinking and learn so, acquire some new tools to put in their tool belt so that when they do go through life, they can handle it a little bit differently.
And a final note here with Josh Lambo in this special edition of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Heritage Hill Studios. Not a question, more of a statement. Josh, I walked into this interview with the hope of getting to tell somebody that had a positive impact on me, thank you. Someone that represented the team that I grew up 9 years old when I started to like the team, to say thank you. Somebody who I think wore teal and gold well, handled themselves well. I wanted to shout out the fedoras because I have yet to see a kicker even attempt this style of Josh Lambo. But beyond all of that, I wanted to say thank you coming in. Coming out of this conversation, I really, more than anything, hope that I made a new friend because I'm very moved by what you're doing and you parallel a lot of the things that I'm trying to do. And I would like to see a world where we help each other help others succeed.
I'm all about living in that world.
Josh Lambo. You know him. I know him. That's one incredible person out there. And Josh, to who raised you, to the people that affected your life in a positive way, I thank them. And to a conversation I was looking forward to having being beyond measure better than what I even anticipated. I had a lot of respect for you coming in. Like I said, I got more going out. So, Josh Lambo, our spotlight. Josh, thank you for everything. Thank you for all the kicks. Thank you for all the memories. Thank you for all the smiles and the positivity. And the only two things I could say moving forward is I can't wait to see what you're going to do next in a positive and impactful way in this world and to do good work. And the second thing is I need to help. I need you to help me pick out a fedora that I can rock. So,
We can take care of that. No problem.
thank you, sir, for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Dan.